I just have a problem with that. How about working on Sundays? Letting your kids participate in sports on Sundays. Some people say, fine. Some people get really bent out of shape. Try to come up with all sorts of reasons as to why people should not be working on Sundays until they have a need with a physician or a plumber or something that are working on Sundays. Then they're grateful for it. I once read an excerpt from a book from a very popular Christian author. It said driving a BMW is a sin. In his opinion, it is a sin. No Christian should be driving a BMW. Now, after first service, I had a guy come up and he goes, hey, I drive a BMW. I said, look, I'm not saying it's wrong. And one guy said, you know, what, are black and gold Hummers okay? Hey, yeah. You know, if you have you're under conviction, brother, you know, hand me the keys. I'll take it. Okay? I'll help out here. But these are things that these are opinions. The scriptures do not talk specifically about BMWs, styles of music, how short should be. These are disputable. But anyway, the thing is, these things, these Christian liberties, these freedoms, they can be elevated to such a state that some people make them the dominant issue in their walk with Christ, and they will even fight over them. Some people love their opinions. They love how they have made personal decisions in areas that are theologically gray. And man, that's where they're going to stake on. That's where they're going to be. And they will fight over those things. Most church splits and church factions are not over theologically doctrinal issues, the absolute rights and the absolute wrongs. They are usually over these kind of petty things. The exercise of Christian liberties and freedoms are not issues of absolute right and absolute wrong. Can I repeat that? Issues of Christian liberties and Christian freedoms, they are not doctrinal issues that the Bible clearly says this is absolutely right or absolutely wrong. And since these liberties and freedoms are not issues of being absolute right or absolutely wrong, then neither are they of matters of any great importance. Now some of you are just going, what? My freedoms and my liberties are not of great importance? I would say, according to the Scriptures, no. In fact, I would say, according to the Scriptures, they are a very low priority. Very low priority. Because Paul, in the previous verse that we were looking at, he goes, look, if because of food, liberties, your brother is hurt, you're no longer walking according to love. You're putting your Christian liberties and freedoms and preferences and opinions about things that are not specifically declared absolutely right on. You're putting them above the law or the principle of love. And Paul spanks him for it. These are things that are low priority. People, we must not confuse our freedoms that we have here as Americans, our freedoms of liberty that we have here as citizens, with the freedoms that we have spiritually in Christ, because they are two entirely different things. When we speak of our nation and our country, as we honored those this morning that has served to bring us those freedoms, or to ensure that those freedoms and liberties that we have, that they continue on, they are different than our freedoms in Christ. You see, because the mantra of our country, of our nation, of our world is that we are free in this nation to do the things that we want to do. And we say, well, of course. And I like these certain liberties. And it's like, the Scriptures don't talk about that. The Scriptures don't talk about that. When we as believers, followers of Christ, want to stand on this small rock and say, this is my right. This is my opinion. This is my preference. This is my liberty. then brothers and sisters, we are doing no more than behaving like the junior high school down the road. And when the world wants to look in at many churches, what they find out is that what really they are arguing and spending their time and energy is over opinions and these sorts of things. They look at us as like nothing more than a bunch of immature junior high school people. And it's sad. You see, our freedom in Christ is something entirely different. Paul says in Galatians 5, he says, "You are called to freedom, brethren, only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another." You see, our freedom that we have through Christ, we have not been set free from the penalty of our sin and the penalty of death through our sin and eternal separation. We have been set free, not so that we can do the things that we want to do or the things that we have the opportunity, the things that I want to do, but we have been set free to do the things that I ought to do the things that I should do. Paul says we were called to freedom, brothers, but he said use that freedom as an opportunity that through love we serve one another. We have been set free from our own selfish predisposition on seeking our own way. And now the focus becomes outward. Peter writes this in his epistle, "For such is the will of God, that by doing right you may silence the ignorance of foolish men." How do we do that? He says, act as free men. Act as free men and do not use your freedom as a covering for evil. No pretending here. No synthetic believers. He says, but use it as bond slaves of God. Doesn't that sound like a contradiction? Act as free men and then use it to be a bond slave of God. A bond slave was a slave that would willingly stay with his master when his freedom to leave was offered. It was the type of slave who says, I can do anything I want, but I choose to stay with my master because I love my master, and I'm staying with my master with no conditions. I will do as my master instructs me to do. And that's why so often in the New Testament we find that the apostles, Peter, Paul, identify themselves many times as bond slaves, because that's what we are, people. We have been called to him, and we choose to go to him. And our intention should be that, you know what, I am free, and I choose to hook up with the living God. Paul says this, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. Paul says, in essence, yeah, I'm free. I can enjoy a lot of things that are not spiritually condemned or spoken of as evil or wrong. I can enjoy, he goes, all those things are lawful for me, but he goes, but not all things are profitable.